The notification on my phone stops me cold as I'm walking out of Phoenix Design Solutions after another 12-hour day. Chase Bank alert. Your auto loan payment of $1,847 is due in 3 days. I stare at the screen, blinking in the harsh Arizona sun. Auto loan? I don't own a car. I take the light rail to work every morning and Uber when necessary. My hands shake as I call the number immediately. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. After 20 minutes on hold, a representative named Angela finally picks up. Miss Rodriguez, yes, I see your account here. You financed a 2024 BMW X7 M from Luxury Motors of Phoenix last month. The total loan amount is $89,400. The words hit me like a physical blow. Someone has stolen my identity and bought a luxury SUV worth more than I make in 2 years. But as I demand more details, one piece of information makes my blood run cold. The car was delivered to an address I recognize all too well. My sister Jessica's apartment in Scottsdale. Growing up as the younger sister to Jessica Rodriguez meant living in a world where everything revolved around her desires and demands. Our modest home in a Phoenix suburb became her personal stage, where every family dinner turned into an opportunity for Jessica to showcase her latest drama or achievement. While I spent my evenings hunched over textbooks and art projects, Jessica commanded attention with stories of her social media followers, her modeling opportunities, or her latest romantic conquest. Our parents, Carmen and David, seemed perpetually caught in her orbit, offering endless praise for her Instagram posts while barely glancing at my honor roll certificates or design portfolio pieces. The pattern established itself early and never wavered. When Jessica decided she wanted to be a beauty influencer at 16, our parents immediately funded professional photography sessions, ring lights, and expensive makeup palettes. When I asked for a laptop to pursue graphic design courses, they suggested I save up from my part-time job at the local coffee shop. Jessica's room overflowed with packages from sponsors and brands eager to work with her growing online presence, while I learned Photoshop on the library computers and created logos for local businesses to earn gas money. By the time Jessica turned 21, she had cultivated an image of effortless luxury that belied our middle-class reality. Her social media painted a picture of designer handbags, expensive dinners, and weekend getaways, all carefully curated to attract brand partnerships and maintain her follower count. What her audience didn't see were the credit cards maxed out in our parents' names, the borrowed clothes returned after being photographed, or the elaborate lies she told to maintain her facade. Our parents enabled every deception, convinced that Jessica's online success would eventually translate into real financial stability for the entire family. The contrast between us couldn't have been starker. While Jessica built her identity around appearance and online validation, I threw myself into developing actual skills. I worked 2 jobs through community college, saved every penny, and eventually transferred to Arizona State University to complete my marketing degree. My professors noticed my dedication and creativity, leading to internships that taught me the real business behind the glamorous social media world Jessica inhabited. I learned about authentic brand building, sustainable marketing strategies, and the importance of delivering actual value to clients and audiences. When I landed my first full-time position at Phoenix Design Solutions at 23, it felt like validation for all the nights I'd chosen studying over socializing. Miss Patricia Wells, the creative director, became more than just a boss. She mentored me through complex client relationships, taught me to trust my creative instincts, and celebrated my successes in ways my own family never had. Under her guidance, I developed campaigns that helped local businesses grow, created brand identities that resonated with target audiences, and slowly built a reputation as someone who could transform a company's visual presence. My personal life transformed as dramatically as my professional one when Alex Thompson walked into our office seeking help with his nonprofit's rebranding. His organization focused on providing technology access to underserved communities, and his passion for the work was immediately apparent. Our initial meeting, scheduled for an hour, stretched into 3 as we discussed not just design concepts but the broader impact of accessible technology on educational outcomes. Alex possessed a rare combination of ordealism and pragmatism that drew me in completely. Dating Alex introduced me to what healthy family dynamics actually looked like. His parents, Robert and Linda, welcomed me into their home with genuine warmth and interest in my work and goals. They asked thoughtful questions about my design projects, remembered details about my clients, and celebrated my professional milestones with the same enthusiasm they showed for Alex's achievements. Sunday dinners at their house became a refuge where conversation flowed naturally, where everyone's contributions were valued, and where success was measured by personal growth rather than external validation. The stark difference between the Thompson family dynamics and my own became impossible to ignore. When I shared exciting news about landing a major client or receiving recognition at work, Alex's parents responded with genuine pride and detailed questions about my process and vision. When I mentioned the same achievements to my own family, the conversation quickly shifted to Jessica's latest sponsored post or brand collaboration. The Thompsons created space for everyone to shine, while my family operated as if there was only room for one star, and Jessica had claimed that position permanently. As my relationship with Alex deepened and my career continued to flourish, I began to understand that the emotional neglect I'd experienced wasn't normal or acceptable. The Thompsons' consistent support and interest in my life highlighted how starved I'd been for authentic family connection. Their home became a sanctuary, where I could share my dreams without fear of dismissal, where my accomplishments were celebrated rather than minimized, and where I was valued for who I was, rather than how I compared to Jessica. Meanwhile, Jessica's influencer career began showing cracks that she desperately tried to hide. Algorithm changes reduced her reach, younger creators captured the attention of brands she'd relied on, and her follower growth stagnated despite increasingly desperate attempts to go viral. She began
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Borrowing money from our parents more frequently, always with promises that her next collaboration would pay everything back with interest. Her posts became more elaborate and expensive, featuring luxury items she couldn't afford, and lifestyle experiences funded by credit cards and family loans. The financial strain on our parents became increasingly obvious, though they continued to support Jessica's failing ventures with unwavering faith. They refinanced their house to help fund what Jessica called her personal brand expansion, which seemed to involve increasingly expensive photo shoots and equipment purchases that yielded diminishing returns. When I gently suggested that Jessica might benefit from developing backup skills or considering a traditional job, my parents reacted as if I'd suggested she abandon her dreams entirely. Jessica's response to her declining influence was to double down on the luxury lifestyle content that had once brought her success. She began featuring more expensive items in her posts, claiming to own designer pieces that I suspected were borrowed or rented. Her boyfriend Tyler, a local gym owner with his own modest social media following, seemed caught up in her world of manufactured glamour. Together they presented an image of young success that masked mounting debt and increasing desperation to maintain relevance in an increasingly crowded digital landscape. The turning point came when Jessica announced her pregnancy, transforming her failing beauty brand into a mommy influencer pivot. Suddenly, her declining engagement was reframed as an opportunity to tap into the lucrative parenting content market. She began planning elaborate maternity photo shoots, designing a nursery that looked like it belonged in a magazine, and preparing for what she called the most Instagrammable pregnancy journey ever. The financial demands of this new direction far exceeded anything she'd attempted before, requiring props, locations, and production values that stretched the family's resources to their breaking point. Our parents embraced Jessica's pregnancy announcement with the same uncritical enthusiasm they'd shown for all her previous ventures. They began planning an elaborate baby shower that would serve double duty as content for Jessica's social media rebrand. The event was scheduled for Desert Ridge Country Club, with professional photography, custom decorations, and a guest list that included every local influencer Jessica could convince to attend. The budget for this single event exceeded what most people spend on their weddings, funded primarily by our parents' retirement savings and supplemented by family loans. Jessica promised to repay once her mommy content gained traction. As I watched my family pour their limited resources into Jessica's latest venture, I felt a familiar mixture of frustration and resignation. The pattern was so established that questioning it seemed pointless. Jessica needed something, the family mobilized to provide it, and I continued working quietly in the background to build my own stability. I'd learned to find validation outside my family circle, to celebrate my achievements with people who genuinely cared about my success, and to protect my emotional energy from the constant drain of Jessica's crises and triumphs. The weeks leading up to Jessica's baby shower were filled with increasingly frantic preparations as she tried to create an event worthy of the social media attention she desperately needed. Every detail had to be perfect, every angle Instagram ready, every moment designed for maximum online impact. She hired a professional photographer, a videographer, and even a social media coordinator to ensure the event would generate the content she needed to revive her stalling career. The financial investment was staggering, but our parents supported every expense with the blind faith that had characterized their relationship with Jessica since childhood. When the bank notification appeared on my phone that Tuesday afternoon, my first thought wasn't anger but confusion. The idea that someone would steal my identity seemed so random, so impersonal. It wasn't until I heard Jessica's address that the pieces began forming a picture I didn't want to acknowledge. My sister, desperate to maintain her lifestyle and fund her latest venture, had somehow gained access to my personal information and used it to finance a luxury vehicle that would serve as the perfect prop for her social media content. The BMW X7 M wasn't just a car, it was a statement piece, a symbol of the success Jessica needed her audience to believe she'd achieved. In her world, owning a $90,000 luxury SUV would signal that her brand was thriving, that her influence was growing, and that her pregnancy represented an elevation rather than a desperate pivot. The car would appear in countless posts and stories, generating the kind of lifestyle envy that drove engagement and attracted brand partnerships. Every photo would reinforce the narrative that Jessica had built a successful business empire, even as that empire was literally built on stolen foundations. As I hung up the phone with the bank, promising to file a police report and begin the identity theft process, I felt something shift inside me that I'd never experienced before. For 25 years, I'd accepted Jessica's behavior as an unfortunate family dynamic that I had to navigate around. I'd found ways to succeed, despite her constant drain on family resources and attention. I'd built relationships and career satisfaction outside the toxic patterns that defined our household. But this crossed a line that transformed personal frustration into criminal behavior, and for the first time in my life, I had legal recourse against the sister who had been taking from me my entire life. The drive to the Phoenix Police Department feels surreal as I clutch the printed bank statements and loan documents that prove someone has stolen my financial identity. Detective Harris, a weathered woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, listens patiently as I explain the situation. She's handled dozens of identity theft cases, but when I mention that the car was delivered to my sister's address, her expression shifts from routine interest to sharp attention. Family identity theft is more common than people realize. Detective Harris explains, pulling out a fresh incident report form. Siblings often have access to each other's personal information from childhood. Social security numbers, birth dates, mothers' maiden names, the security questions banks use to verify identity. In your case, your sister would know all of these details intimately. She asks me to provide a detailed timeline of when I last saw Jessica, whether I'd noticed any unusual behavior, and if I had any reason to suspect she might be experiencing financial difficulties. As I recount Jessica's recent desperation to fund her baby shower and maintain her social media presence, Detective Harris takes careful notes. She explains that proving intent in family identity theft cases requires establishing both motive and opportunity. The motive seems clear, given Jessica's financial struggles and expensive lifestyle demands. The opportunity exists because of our family relationship and Jessica's likely access to my personal information over the years. What we need now is evidence that directly connects Jessica to the fraudulent loan application. The next morning, I take a personal day from work to visit Luxury Motors of Phoenix with Detective Harris. The dealership occupies a sprawling complex of gleaming showrooms and service bays, the kind of place where every surface reflects money and status. Mr. James Foster, the sales manager who handled the BMW transaction, agrees to meet with us in his office overlooking the main showroom floor. His demeanor immediately shifts from welcoming to cautious when Detective Harris introduces herself and explains the nature of our visit. I remember this sale specifically, Mr. Foster admits, pulling up the transaction details on his computer. The customer was very particular about the vehicle specifications and the delivery timing. She mentioned it was a surprise for her husband and insisted on having it delivered rather than picking it up herself. He shows us the paperwork, all filled out in Jessica's handwriting but using my name, social security number, and employment information. The signature, attempting to mimic mine, is close but not perfect, lacking the specific pen pressure and letter formation that would make it authentic. Detective Harris examines the loan application carefully, noting several red flags that should have triggered additional verification. The listed employment at Phoenix Design Solutions was accurate, but the salary information was inflated by nearly 40%. The references provided included Tyler's phone number listed as my emergency contact, and Jessica's own phone number listed as my primary contact. Most telling, the application listed Jessica's Scottsdale apartment as my current address, despite the fact that I've lived in downtown Phoenix for over 2 years. Did you verify this employment information directly with the employer? Detective Harris asks. Mr. Foster shifts uncomfortably, explaining that the applicant provided recent pay stubs and a letter of employment that appeared authentic. What he doesn't mention until pressed is that Jessica had specifically requested expedited processing, claiming she needed the vehicle for a work project with a tight deadline. The combination of apparently legitimate documentation and time pressure had led him to approve the application without making the standard verification calls. The loan documents reveal the full scope of Jessica's deception. She'd applied for the maximum possible loan amount, extending the payment term to lower the monthly payments, while maximizing the cash she could extract from the transaction. The BMW X7 M she'd selected was loaded with every available option, pushing the price well beyond the base model cost. She'd even purchased an extended warranty and additional insurance coverage, all of which added to the total loan amount that would appear on my credit report as debt. As we review the paperwork, Mr. Foster admits that several aspects of the transaction had seemed unusual, but not enough to halt the sale. The customer had been extremely knowledgeable about the specific vehicle features and options, suggesting she'd researched the purchase extensively. She'd arrived with printed insurance information and bank routing details that appeared legitimate. Most convincingly, she'd been able to answer basic personal verification questions about employment history and previous addresses without hesitation. Detective Harris requests copies of all transaction documents and asks Mr. Foster to preserve any security camera footage from the day of the sale. The dealership's sophisticated surveillance system had captured Jessica's entire visit, including her arrival in Tyler's truck, her detailed examination of the vehicle, and her confident completion of the paperwork. The footage shows her behavior as relaxed and familiar, someone who clearly felt entitled to be making this purchase, rather than someone nervous about committing fraud. Returning to the police station, Detective Harris begins the process of building a case file that will eventually support criminal charges. She explains that financial identity theft of this magnitude constitutes a felony under Arizona law, potentially carrying significant jail time and restitution requirements. However, prosecuting family members for identity theft requires careful evidence gathering to prove that the crime was intentional, rather than the result of miscommunication or family financial arrangements. The investigation reveals additional layers of Jessica's deception that extend far beyond the car purchase. Bank records show that she'd been monitoring my credit report for months, using a service that sends alerts about new accounts and credit inquiries. She'd gained access to my credit monitoring account by correctly answering security questions about my childhood pets, elementary schools, and other information she'd known for decades. This allowed her to track my improving credit score and available credit limits as she planned her fraudulent purchase. Detective Harris discovers that Jessica had been particularly strategic about timing her identity theft. She'd waited until after I'd received a significant promotion and salary increase at Phoenix Design Solutions, information she'd likely obtained through casual family conversations or social media posts about my career progress. My improved financial profile made the loan application more attractive to lenders and increased the likelihood of approval for the expensive vehicle she wanted. The evidence also reveals that Jessica had practiced forging my signature by accessing old family documents where my signature appeared. Bank deposit slips, insurance forms, and other paperwork from family transactions over the years had provided her with multiple examples of my signature evolution. She'd even practiced on scratch paper, refining her ability to replicate my handwriting before completing the actual loan documents. As the investigation continues, I'm forced to confront the reality that Jessica's identity theft wasn't an impulsive decision born from desperation. The level of planning and preparation involved indicates months of premeditation. She'd researched the specific vehicle she wanted, identified the dealership most likely to approve her application, and timed her fraud to coincide with my strongest financial position. This wasn't a family member borrowing money in a crisis. This was calculated criminal behavior designed to saddle me with debt, while providing her with a luxury asset for her social media content. The personal impact of Jessica's crime extends far beyond the financial damage. My credit score, which I'd spent years carefully building through responsible financial behavior, now shows a massive debt that I didn't incur. The monthly payment obligation threatens to derail my own financial goals, including my plans to eventually purchase a home with Alex. Even after the fraud is proven and the loan is removed from my credit report, the process will take months and require constant follow-up to ensure all traces of the fraudulent debt are eliminated. More disturbing is the realization that Jessica had been systematically gathering information about my financial life for months without my knowledge. She'd somehow gained access to my mail, either through visiting our parents' house, where some financial documents were still delivered, or through other means of surveillance that violated my privacy in fundamental ways. The level of betrayal involves not just stealing my identity, but invading my personal life in ways that make me question every interaction we'd had in recent months. Detective Harris explains that family identity theft cases often involve this kind of long-term information gathering and planning. Perpetrators use their intimate knowledge of family members to bypass security measures that would stop strangers from committing the same crimes. They know personal history details, understand family financial patterns, and can often predict when their victims are least likely to notice suspicious activity. In Jessica's case, her knowledge of my work schedule, social activities, and financial habits allowed her to time her fraud perfectly. The psychological impact proves as challenging as the financial consequences. Learning that my own sister had been planning to destroy my credit and saddle me with debt for her personal benefit forces me to reevaluate every family interaction from the past year. Had her questions about my job promotion been innocent curiosity or intelligence gathering? When she'd asked about my apartment lease and future housing plans, was she genuinely interested in my life, or calculating the best time to strike? The realization that our relationship had been fundamentally dishonest creates a sense of betrayal that extends far beyond the immediate crime. As I work with Detective Harris to build the case against Jessica, I'm forced to provide detailed information about our family dynamics and financial relationships. Explaining the pattern of financial favoritism, the enabling behavior of our parents, and Jessica's history of manipulative conduct feels like exposing family secrets that I'd previously kept private. However, establishing Jessica's character and pattern of behavior becomes crucial for proving that her actions were intentional and malicious, rather than the result of confusion or family miscommunication. The investigation also reveals that Jessica had been engaging in other forms of financial fraud that hadn't directly involved me. She'd been using fake engagement metrics and fabricated sponsorship deals to maintain her influencer status, creating elaborate lies about brand partnerships that didn't exist. Her social media success was largely fictional, supported by purchased followers and manipulated engagement rates that created the illusion of influence without actual audience connection. Tyler's role in Jessica's schemes becomes increasingly apparent as Detective Harris digs deeper into the case. While he may not have directly participated in the identity theft, he'd been complicit in Jessica's lifestyle deceptions and had benefited from the luxury items and experiences she'd funded through fraudulent means. The BMW had been registered in my name, but insured under Tyler's policy, creating additional complications for the investigation and recovery process. The most painful revelation comes when Detective Harris shows me Jessica's recent social media posts featuring the stolen BMW. She'd been using the luxury vehicle as a prop for her pregnancy content, photographing herself next to it while discussing her excitement about providing the best life possible for her unborn child. Each post generated hundreds of likes and comments from followers who believed they were celebrating Jessica's success rather than viewing the proceeds of identity theft. As the evidence mounts against Jessica, I begin to understand that her crime wasn't just about stealing money or damaging my credit. She'd stolen my financial identity to fund a lifestyle that would generate social media content designed to rebuild her failing influence. The BMW represented more than transportation. It was a crucial element in the narrative of success she was selling to her audience. Every photo, every story, every post featuring the vehicle was essentially monetizing my stolen identity for her personal brand. The realization that Jessica viewed me, not as a sister, but as a resource to be exploited, fundamentally changes how I understand our relationship. The financial crime is devastating, but the personal betrayal cuts deeper. She'd been willing to destroy my financial future to maintain her social media facade, treating my identity as collateral damage in her desperate attempt to remain relevant in an increasingly competitive digital landscape. This wasn't sibling rivalry or family dysfunction. This was predatory behavior that happened to occur within a family context. Detective Harris prepares me for the reality that prosecuting Jessica will likely destroy what remains of our family relationships. Our parents, already financially and emotionally invested in Jessica's success, will probably view my cooperation with law enforcement as betrayal rather than self-protection. The baby shower that planning will become the backdrop for Jessica's arrest, creating a public spectacle that will humiliate the entire family and expose their enabling behavior to their social circle. As we prepare for the next phase of the investigation, I realize that I'm not just seeking justice for identity theft. I'm finally taking action to protect myself from a family system that has never valued my well-being. Jessica's crime has given me legal grounds to establish boundaries that I'd never been able to maintain through family negotiation alone. For the first time in my life, I have the power to hold Jessica accountable for her actions in a way that can't be minimized, excused, or redirected by family pressure. The weight of this decision settles over me as I drive home from the police station. Tomorrow, Detective Harris will begin the process of obtaining warrants for Jessica's arrest and the recovery of the stolen vehicle. The elaborate baby shower that our parents have spent months planning will become the setting for Jessica's public downfall. The social media content she's been creating with my stolen identity will become evidence in a criminal case that could send her to prison. Yet despite the magnitude of what's about to unfold, I feel a strange sense of relief. For 25 years, I've watched Jessica take whatever she wanted, while facing no meaningful consequences. I've built my own success, despite her constant drain.
Family resources and attention. I've found love and career satisfaction outside the toxic dynamics that defined our household. But I've never been able to stop her from taking from me. Never been able to force accountability for her selfish behavior. Now finally, I have both the evidence and the legal framework to demand justice for her most egregious theft yet. The morning sun casts long shadows across the parking lot of Desert Ridge Country Club as I sit in Alex's car watching the early setup crew transform the venue for Jessica's baby shower. Pink and gold balloons cluster around the entrance while workers arrange elaborate floral displays that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I can see Jessica directing the placement of a custom backdrop featuring her name in cursive script, designed specifically for the professional photography session that will document every moment of this celebration. Alex squeezes my hand as we observe the preparations from our distant parking spot. Detective Harris had asked us to arrive early to coordinate the timing of Jessica's arrest with the moment when the maximum number of guests would be present. The plan requires precision timing to ensure that Jessica can't flee when she realizes law enforcement has arrived, while also ensuring that the arrest occurs publicly enough to prevent any claims that evidence was planted or witnesses were unavailable. The guest list for this event reads like a directory of Phoenix's social media influencers, local business owners, and family friends who have been drawn into Jessica's web of manufactured success over the years. Our parents have invited relatives from across Arizona, many of whom haven't seen Jessica since childhood but have been following her online journey through carefully curated posts that present a vastly different reality than the truth we're about to expose. The collision between Jessica's public image and the criminal charges she's about to face will devastate not just her but everyone who has believed in and supported her fabricated lifestyle. Detective Harris arrives in an unmarked sedan, followed by two patrol officers who position themselves strategically around the venue's exits. She approaches our car with a manila folder containing the arrest warrant and seizure order for the BMW, which is currently parked prominently near the country club's main entrance where it can be featured in photos throughout the event. The vehicle's placement isn't coincidental. Jessica has positioned it as a centerpiece of her success narrative, a tangible symbol of the prosperity she wants her guests and social media followers to believe she's achieved. "Are you ready for this?" Detective Harris asks through Alex's open window. The question carries weight beyond the immediate arrest procedure. She's asking whether I'm prepared for the family devastation that will follow, the relationships that will be permanently altered, and the public exposure of dysfunction that our family has kept hidden for decades. There's no reversing course once Jessica is arrested in front of her baby shower guests, no way to contain the fallout that will ripple through every aspect of our family's social and financial life. As we watch more guests arrive, I recognize faces from Jessica's social media posts over the years. Influencer friends who have collaborated with her on content, local business owners who have provided products in exchange for promotional posts, and neighbors from our parents' subdivision who have watched Jessica's apparent success from a distance. Many of these people have invested emotionally and sometimes financially in Jessica's brand, believing they were supporting a genuine success story rather than enabling an elaborate fraud. The professional photographer Jessica hired for the event moves through the venue, capturing artfully staged moments of preparation. Each shot is composed to reinforce the narrative of Jessica's thriving lifestyle and successful transition into motherhood. The images will be edited and posted across her social media platforms over the coming weeks, generating the content she desperately needs to maintain her follower engagement and attract new brand partnerships. What she doesn't realize is that these photos will instead document the final moments before her carefully constructed world collapses. Tyler arrives driving his own truck, apparently unaware that the BMW he's been enjoying for weeks is about to be seized as evidence in a felony case. He enters the venue carrying gift bags and additional decorations, playing his role in Jessica's elaborate production without understanding that law enforcement is documenting his every move. His relationship with Jessica has been built on the lifestyle benefits her apparent success provides, and his reaction to learning about her criminal behavior will reveal the true foundation of their partnership. Through the venue's windows, I can see Jessica holding court near the gift table, her pregnancy accentuating the glow of someone who believes she's finally achieved the recognition and celebration she's always craved. She's wearing a designer maternity dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her hair and makeup professionally styled for the photography session that will generate content for months to come. Everything about her appearance and demeanor radiates confidence and entitlement, the bearing of someone who has never faced meaningful consequences for her actions. Our parents arrive in their aging sedan, dressed in their finest clothes and carrying multiple gift bags that represent a significant financial investment from their limited retirement income. They've mortgaged their future to fund Jessica's lifestyle and this elaborate celebration, believing they're investing in their daughter's continued success rather than enabling her descent into criminal behavior. The pride on their faces as they enter the venue speaks to years of emotional investment in Jessica's fabricated achievements. As the guest count reaches its peak, Detective Harris gives the signal for the operation to begin. She walks casually toward the venue's main entrance while the uniformed officers take positions at secondary exits. The arrest warrant in her jacket pocket represents months of investigation and evidence gathering, a legal document that will transform Jessica from celebrated expectant mother to accused felon in a matter of minutes. The contrast between the celebration surrounding her and the criminal charges she's about to face couldn't be more stark. Alex and I follow at a distance, entering the venue as if we're simply late arriving family members rather than witnesses to a planned arrest. The country club's interior has been transformed into an Instagram-worthy wonderland of desert botanical themes, with professional lighting that creates the perfect ambiance for social media content. Jessica has spared no expense in creating an event that will generate maximum online engagement, not realizing that the most viral moment will be her own arrest. The moment Jessica spots me across the crowded room, her expression shifts from confident hostess to wary surprise. We haven't spoken since the identity theft investigation began, and my presence at her celebration clearly wasn't expected or welcomed. She excuses herself from a conversation with several influencer friends and approaches with the cautious smile she uses when she's unsure of her audience's mood. Her ability to read social situations and adjust her performance accordingly has served her well throughout her online career, but it won't help her navigate what's about to unfold. "Maya, I wasn't sure you were coming," Jessica says, her voice carrying the forced warmth she uses for people she considers beneath her attention but can't afford to alienate completely. She's probably calculating whether my presence represents an opportunity for family reconciliation content or a potential disruption to her carefully planned event. The irony that she's greeting the sister whose identity she stole while surrounded by evidence of her crime adds a surreal quality to the interaction. Detective Harris positions herself near the gift table, observing Jessica's interactions while waiting for the optimal moment to make the arrest. The timing needs to maximize the number of witnesses while minimizing the risk of escape or evidence destruction. Jessica's phone, which contains extensive documentation of her fraudulent activities, needs to be secured before she realizes law enforcement is present and attempts to delete incriminating content. The professional photographer continues documenting the event, unknowingly capturing what will become evidence in a criminal case.
Photos of Jessica posing with gifts, mingling with guests, and celebrating her pregnancy will be analyzed for signs of the stress and deception that were hidden beneath her performance. The videographer she hired to create promotional content for her social media channels is creating a permanent record of her final moments of freedom. As Jessica moves through the party accepting congratulations and posing for photos, she embodies the persona she's cultivated over years of social media performance. Every gesture is calculated for maximum visual impact, every conversation steered toward topics that reinforce her success narrative. She's particularly focused on ensuring that key influencers and business connections see her interacting with the BMW through the venue's windows, reinforcing the impression that she's achieved a level of success worthy of their continued association. The gift opening portion of the baby shower provides Jessica with the content opportunity she's been orchestrating for months. Each present is unwrapped with theatrical enthusiasm for the cameras, generating the kind of authentic emotional moments that drive social media engagement. The expensive items she receives from guests who believe they're celebrating genuine success will become part of her content strategy, featured in future posts as evidence of her thriving lifestyle and strong social connections. Tyler plays his supporting role perfectly, standing beside Jessica and participating in the performance of successful young parenthood. His social media presence has grown through association with Jessica's brand, and he's clearly invested in maintaining the lifestyle and status that relationship provides. The revelation of Jessica's criminal behavior will force him to choose between loyalty to someone he's discovered is a felon and self-preservation in the face of potential legal consequences. Our parents beam with pride as they watch Jessica command the attention of dozens of guests, many of whom represent the social and business connections they've hoped would validate their investment in her career. They've sacrificed their own financial security to fund Jessica's lifestyle, believing they were supporting a daughter whose success would eventually benefit the entire family. The public exposure of her criminal behavior will shatter not just their financial future but their social standing in the community they've called home for decades. Detective Harris checks her watch and moves closer to Jessica's position near the photographer's backdrop. The arrest warrant allows for immediate custody once Jessica's identity is confirmed, and the seizure order permits immediate confiscation of the BMW and any other evidence of fraudulent activity. The timing of the arrest during the baby shower isn't vindictive, it's strategic, designed to prevent Jessica from fleeing or destroying evidence once she realizes law enforcement is investigating her activities. The moment arrives with shocking suddenness as Detective Harris approaches Jessica during a photo session with several influencer friends. The professional photographer captures Jessica's expression changing from posed celebration to genuine confusion as Detective Harris displays her badge and announces that Jessica Rodriguez is under arrest for identity theft, bank fraud, and related financial crimes. The words echo through the suddenly silent venue as guests struggle to process what they're witnessing. Jessica's immediate reaction reveals the calculating mind behind her social media persona. Rather than expressing surprise or confusion, she immediately looks toward the exits while her hands move toward her phone, clearly planning either escape or evidence destruction. Detective Harris, anticipating this response, signals for the uniformed officers to secure the exits while she takes Jessica's phone and places her in handcuffs. The transformation from celebrated expectant mother to accused criminal happens so quickly that many guests don't initially understand what they're witnessing. The professional photographer, still operating on autopilot, continues capturing images until the reality of the situation penetrates his focus on composition and lighting. The arrest is being documented in high-definition detail, creating evidence that will be used in court proceedings, while also providing the kind of dramatic content that will eventually find its way onto social media platforms despite Jessica's desperate attempts to control her image. Tyler's reaction provides insight into the true nature of his relationship with Jessica as he immediately distances himself from her, claiming ignorance about her financial activities and expressing shock at the criminal charges. His social media career has been built on association with Jessica's brand, and he clearly recognizes that continued loyalty to someone facing felony charges would destroy his own reputation and future opportunities. The partnership that seemed romantic on social media reveals itself as a business arrangement when faced with legal consequences. Our parents' response demonstrates the depth of their emotional and financial investment in Jessica's fabricated success. Rather than expressing concern about the criminal charges or asking questions about the evidence, they immediately begin defending Jessica and attacking law enforcement for disrupting her special day. Their reaction reveals how completely they've been captured by Jessica's manipulation and how unprepared they are to face the reality of her criminal behavior. As Detective Harris leads Jessica toward the exit in handcuffs, the baby shower guests react with a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and immediate social media impulses. Several influencers begin live streaming the arrest while others delete photos and posts featuring Jessica from their accounts, recognizing that association with someone facing criminal charges could damage their own brands. The social media ecosystem that Jessica has cultivated over years of careful networking begins dissolving in real time as former friends and business associates distance themselves from the scandal. The seizure of the BMW occurs simultaneously with Jessica's arrest, as uniformed officers secure the vehicle and begin the process of impounding evidence. The luxury SUV that has served as the centerpiece of Jessica's recent content represents the most visible symbol of her criminal activity, and its removal from the venue provides dramatic punctuation to her arrest. Guests who had been admiring the vehicle and commenting on Jessica's apparent success now understand they were witnessing the proceeds of identity theft. The venue management scrambles to handle a situation entirely outside their experience as the elegant baby shower transforms into a crime scene. The professional photography and videography equipment that was meant to document celebration instead captures evidence of criminal activity and its consequences. The contrast between the festive decorations and the serious legal proceedings creates a surreal atmosphere that none of the participants were prepared to navigate. As law enforcement vehicles leave the venue with Jessica in custody and the BMW on a tow truck, the remaining guests confront the reality that they've been unknowing participants in a celebration funded by criminal activity. The gifts they brought, the congratulations they offered, and the social media content they created have all been based on false premises. Many realize they need to examine their own involvement with Jessica's activities to ensure they haven't inadvertently participated in her fraudulent schemes. The aftermath of the arrest leaves the venue in chaos as guests process what they've witnessed and consider the implications for their own relationships and reputations. The baby shower that was meant to celebrate new life and continued success instead becomes a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media deception and the consequences of criminal behavior. The professional documentation Jessica arranged to promote her brand instead provides evidence for her prosecution and serves as a permanent record of her downfall. Our parents remain at the venue long after other guests have departed, surrounded by the expensive decorations and unused catering that represent their financial sacrifice for Jessica's elaborate deception. The reality that their daughter is facing felony charges forces them to confront years of enabling behavior and financial decisions that have left them vulnerable and exposed. The baby shower they funded as an investment in Jessica's continued success has become the setting for the collapse of everything they believed about her achievements and character. The Phoenix Police Department holding facility buzzes with activity as Jessica sits in a stark interrogation room, her designer maternity dress replaced with standard orange jail attire that strips away every element of the carefully cultivated image she spent years building. Detective Harris places a thick folder on the metal table between them, containing months of evidence that documents the scope of Jessica's identity theft operation. The contrast between Jessica's current situation and the luxury lifestyle she was flaunting just hours earlier at her baby shower couldn't be more dramatic or sobering. Let's start with the BMW loan application, Detective Harris says, sliding the fraudulent documents across the table. Jessica's forged signature stares back at her from multiple pages of paperwork that will serve as primary evidence in her felony case. The meticulous planning that went into stealing my identity becomes clear as Detective Harris walks through each element of Jessica's deception, from the months of credit monitoring to the strategic timing of her loan application to coincide with my recent promotion and improved financial profile. Jessica's initial strategy involves denying any knowledge of the fraudulent loan, claiming she was as surprised as anyone to learn about the BMW purchase. However, this defense crumbles quickly when Detective Harris presents security camera footage from the dealership showing Jessica completing the entire transaction herself. The high-definition video captures not just her physical presence but her confident demeanor as someone clearly familiar with the process and comfortable with the deception she was perpetrating. The interrogation reveals additional layers of Jessica's criminal activity that extend far beyond the single car loan that triggered the investigation. Bank records show multiple attempts to open credit cards using my personal information, most of which were declined due to income verification requirements that Jessica couldn't satisfy. She'd been systematically testing the limits of what she could accomplish using my identity, with the BMW representing her most successful and ambitious fraud attempt. Detective Harris presents evidence that Jessica had been planning this identity theft operation for over 6 months, carefully researching luxury vehicles, monitoring interest rates, and timing her application to maximize approval chances. Screenshots from her phone show extensive research into BMW models, dealer incentives, and loan terms that demonstrate premeditation rather than impulsive criminal behavior. The level of planning involved transforms her actions from desperate mistake to calculated financial crime. The evidence also reveals that Jessica had been using my stolen identity for smaller fraudulent activities that hadn't triggered immediate detection. Utility deposits for services at Tyler's apartment, credit checks for rental applications, and various online purchases had all been made using my personal information. These smaller crimes established a pattern of identity theft that preceded the major car loan fraud, demonstrating that Jessica viewed my financial identity as a resource she could exploit whenever convenient. Tyler's role in Jessica's criminal enterprise becomes clearer as Detective Harris presents evidence of his knowledge and participation in her fraudulent activities. Text messages between them discuss the BMW purchase using language that clearly indicates Tyler knew the vehicle was being obtained through deceptive means. References to using Maya's better credit and timing this right prove that Tyler was an active participant rather than an unknowing beneficiary of Jessica's crimes. The financial analysis Detective Harris presents paints a picture of Jessica's desperate economic situation that motivated her criminal behavior. Despite her social media presence suggesting thriving business success, bank records show mounting debt, declining income, and increasingly desperate attempts to maintain her lifestyle through fraudulent means. The pregnancy had accelerated her financial pressure as she tried to fund an elaborate transformation into mommy influencer content while facing declining engagement and lost sponsorship deals. Jessica's phone contains a digital treasure trove of evidence that documents her criminal planning and execution. Photos of my old financial documents that she'd accessed through family connections, screenshots of my credit report that she'd obtained fraudulently, and detailed notes about my employment and income information that she'd gathered through systematic surveillance of my personal life. The phone also contains draft social media posts featuring the BMW that reveal her intention to use the stolen vehicle as a cornerstone of her content strategy. The interrogation exposes the calculated nature of Jessica's manipulation of our family relationships to facilitate her criminal activities. She deliberately cultivated closer contact with our parents in recent months to gain access to old documents and personal information stored at their house. Family dinners and visits that I'd interpreted as attempts at relationship building were actually intelligence gathering operations designed to extract information she could use for identity theft. Detective Harris presents evidence that Jessica had been monitoring my social media accounts and professional activities to track my financial progress and identify optimal timing for her fraud. She'd noted my promotion announcement, apartment lease renewal, and other financial milestones that would improve my creditworthiness and make loan applications more likely to succeed. This surveillance had been ongoing for months without my knowledge or consent, representing a profound violation of privacy that accompanied the financial crimes. The scope of Jessica's deception extends to her relationship with Tyler, who believed her social media success was generating legitimate income when in reality her lifestyle was funded entirely through fraud and family financial support. Tyler's own social media presence had grown through association with Jessica's apparent success, making him an unwitting accomplice in promoting fraudulently obtained luxury items to his own followers. The revelation that their relationship was built on criminal activity forces Tyler to confront his own liability and future prospects. Jessica's pregnancy adds complexity to her legal situation as the court system must balance criminal justice with the welfare of her unborn child. The stress of arrest and incarceration poses risks to her pregnancy, while the criminal charges she faces carry potential jail time that would separate her from her baby after birth. The elaborate baby shower that was meant to celebrate new life instead becomes evidence of criminal activity that threatens to destroy the family she was supposedly preparing to nurture. The evidence against Jessica proves overwhelming as Detective Harris concludes the interrogation with a comprehensive summary of her criminal activities. Multiple felony charges including identity theft, bank fraud, and conspiracy carry potential sentences that could result in years of incarceration and hundreds of thousands of dollars in restitution payments. The social media empire she'd built to avoid traditional employment now lies in ruins, destroyed by the very criminal behavior she'd used to fund her lifestyle. Following Jessica's arraignment and the setting of her bail at $50,000, our parents face the devastating reality that their life savings have been exhausted funding Jessica's fraudulent lifestyle and elaborate baby shower.
The money they would need to post bail has already been spent on decorations, photography, and venue rental for a celebration that ended in arrest and public humiliation. Their retirement security has been sacrificed to enable criminal behavior they were too invested to recognize or acknowledge. The media attention surrounding Jessica's arrest transforms her from local influencer success story to cautionary tale about social media deception and family crime. News outlets cover the dramatic arrest at the baby shower, the luxury car purchased with stolen identity, and the elaborate web of deception that funded her apparent success. The very publicity she'd craved throughout her influencer career now focuses on her criminal behavior rather than her lifestyle content. Alex's family provides the emotional support I need to navigate the aftermath of Jessica's arrest and the destruction of my family relationships. Robert and Linda Thompson offer practical assistance with legal procedures while providing the stability and understanding that my own parents have never demonstrated. Their home becomes a refuge where I can process the trauma of family betrayal without judgment or pressure to forgive criminal behavior for the sake of family unity. The identity theft resolution process proves lengthy and complex as I work with banks, credit agencies, and law enforcement to remove all traces of Jessica's fraudulent activities from my financial profile. Each fraudulent account must be disputed individually, requiring documentation and sworn statements that establish my innocence while proving Jessica's guilt. The process takes months of constant vigilance to ensure that every aspect of the identity theft is properly addressed and resolved. Tyler's decision to cooperate with law enforcement in exchange for reduced charges provides additional evidence of Jessica's criminal activities while revealing the extent to which their relationship was built on mutual exploitation rather than genuine affection. His testimony describes Jessica's detailed planning of the identity theft, her excitement about using the BMW for social media content, and her confidence that family connections would protect her from meaningful consequences if discovered. The baby shower venue demands payment for services rendered despite the event's dramatic conclusion with arrest and criminal charges. The elaborate decorations, professional photography, and catering services represent thousands of dollars in expenses that must be paid regardless of the circumstances that ended the celebration. Our parents, already financially devastated by Jessica's criminal behavior, face additional debt from an event that was meant to showcase success but instead documented criminal downfall. Jessica's social media accounts, once carefully curated showcases of luxury lifestyle content, become evidence repositories,
documenting her fraudulent activities. Every post featuring the stolen BMW, every story showcasing expensive items purchased with fraudulent funds, and every image promoting a lifestyle funded by identity theft becomes part of the prosecution's case against her. The influencer empire she'd built to avoid traditional employment becomes the instrument of her own destruction. The legal proceedings reveal that Jessica's criminal behavior had escalated beyond identity theft to include tax fraud, as she'd been reporting fictional income from non-existent brand partnerships while hiding her actual financial situation from tax authorities. The complexity of her fraudulent activities requires specialized forensic accounting to untangle the web of deception she'd created over years of desperate attempts to maintain her influencer lifestyle. Our parents' reaction to Jessica's criminal charges demonstrates the depth of their enabling behavior as they continue to blame external factors rather than acknowledging her criminal choices. They suggest that social media pressure forced Jessica into desperate behavior, that pregnancy hormones affected her judgment, or that I somehow provoked her actions by achieving professional success that made her feel inadequate. Their inability to accept responsibility for enabling criminal behavior ensures that our family relationships remain permanently damaged. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court reveals that Jessica's criminal behavior stems from narcissistic personality traits that have been reinforced by years of family enabling and social media validation. Her inability to accept responsibility for her actions, her sense of entitlement to others' resources, and her lack of empathy for victims are consistent with patterns of manipulative behavior that preceded her criminal activities. The evaluation suggests that Jessica views others primarily as resources to be exploited rather than individuals deserving of respect and consideration. Jessica's pregnancy progresses during her legal proceedings, creating additional complications as her due date approaches while criminal charges remain pending. The stress of potential incarceration affects her physical health, while the collapse of her social media career eliminates any potential income she might have used to support her child. The baby she'd planned to feature in her content strategy will instead be born to a mother facing felony convictions and potential imprisonment. The restitution hearing reveals the full financial impact of Jessica's criminal activities as banks, dealerships, and other victims present evidence of their losses.
Beyond the immediate cost of the fraudulent BMW loan, Jessica's actions triggered expensive investigation and recovery processes that multiplied the financial damage. The total restitution amount exceeds any realistic ability Jessica might have to repay, ensuring that the consequences of her criminal behavior will extend far into her future. Tyler's cooperation with law enforcement leads to reduced charges but destroys his relationship with Jessica and eliminates any possibility of the family life they'd been planning. His social media presence, built largely on association with Jessica's apparent success, collapses as followers abandon accounts associated with criminal activity. The influencer lifestyle he'd enjoyed through his relationship with Jessica disappears along with the luxury items and experiences that criminal behavior had provided. My own healing process involves not just recovering from the financial damage of identity theft but addressing the psychological trauma of family betrayal and systematic manipulation. Therapy helps me understand that Jessica's criminal behavior represents an extreme escalation of lifelong patterns of exploitation and entitlement that I'd been conditioned to accept as normal family dynamics. Learning to set boundaries with family members who enabled criminal behavior becomes crucial for protecting my own mental health and financial security. The legal resolution comes 18 months after Jessica's arrest when she pleads guilty to multiple felony charges in exchange for a reduced sentence that includes 2 years in state prison followed by extensive restitution payments and supervised probation. The plea agreement requires her to surrender all social media accounts, prohibits her from creating content about her criminal activities, and includes provisions for ongoing monitoring of her financial activities to prevent future fraud. Alex and I use the experience as motivation to strengthen our own relationship and financial planning as we build a life together based on honest communication and shared values. The contrast between our healthy partnership and the dysfunction I experienced in my family of origin becomes a foundation for creating better patterns in our own future family. We establish joint financial goals, transparent communication about money, and systems for protecting our individual and shared resources from potential exploitation. The BMW that symbolized Jessica's criminal success is eventually sold at auction to satisfy part of her restitution obligations, generating far less than the original loan amount due to depreciation and legal fees associated with its recovery. The vehicle that was meant to serve as a cornerstone of Jessica's social media content instead becomes a cautionary symbol of the consequences of identity theft and the temporary nature of fraudulently obtained luxury items. Jessica's baby is born during her incarceration, creating additional complications for our family as temporary custody arrangements must be established while she serves her sentence. Our parents, already financially devastated by Jessica's criminal behavior, struggle to provide care for an infant while processing their own trauma from their daughter's choices. The child who was meant to represent Jessica's successful transition to motherhood instead becomes another victim of her criminal decisions. 2 years after Jessica's arrest, I receive a letter from her in prison expressing what appears to be genuine remorse for her criminal behavior and its impact on our family. However, the letter also contains requests for financial assistance and suggestions that I might help her rebuild her life after release, indicating that her fundamental attitudes about exploiting family relationships may remain unchanged despite her incarceration and the devastating consequences of her previous actions. My response to Jessica's letter establishes clear boundaries about our future relationship while acknowledging that her criminal behavior has permanently altered our family dynamics. I explain that while I hope she finds genuine rehabilitation and purpose after her release, I cannot provide financial assistance or emotional support that might enable future exploitation. The letter represents my final communication with the sister who chose criminal behavior over family loyalty and personal integrity. The long-term impact of Jessica's identity theft extends beyond the immediate financial and legal consequences to include lasting changes in how I approach family relationships, financial security, and personal boundaries. The experience teaches me that blood relationships don't guarantee trustworthiness, and that protecting myself from exploitation requires constant vigilance even with family members. These lessons prove valuable as Alex and I build our own family based on mutual respect, honest communication, and shared commitment to ethical behavior. 5 years after Jessica's arrest, Alex and I celebrate the birth of our first child in a small ceremony attended by people who have consistently demonstrated their love and support through actions rather than words. The contrast between this authentic celebration and the elaborate deception of Jessica's baby shower highlights the difference between relationships built on genuine connection and those based on exploitation and manipulation. Our child will grow up understanding that family is defined by love, respect, and integrity rather than biological connection alone. The final chapter of this story isn't about revenge or punishment, but about the freedom that comes from refusing to enable destructive behavior and choosing to build relationships based on mutual respect and shared values. Jessica's criminal behavior gave me the legal framework to establish boundaries that I'd never been able to maintain through family negotiation alone. The identity theft that was meant to destroy my financial future instead became the catalyst for creating a life free from manipulation and exploitation. The Phoenix courthouse steps feel solid beneath my feet as I emerge from Jessica's sentencing hearing, the Arizona sun warming my face in a way that feels symbolic of the new chapter beginning in my life. Judge Martinez's words still echo in my mind as she delivered a sentence that finally brought legal closure to the 18-month nightmare that began with a fraudulent car loan notification. Jessica will serve 26 months in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation, during which she must pay full restitution and submit to regular financial monitoring to prevent future fraud. Alex squeezes my hand as we walk toward his car, neither of us speaking immediately about the weight of what we've just witnessed. Jessica's final statement to the court had been a carefully crafted performance designed to generate sympathy rather than demonstrate genuine remorse, focusing on her pregnancy difficulties and financial struggles while minimizing the calculated nature of her criminal behavior. The judge saw through the manipulation, noting that Jessica's crimes required months of planning and demonstrated a pattern of exploiting family relationships for personal gain. The courtroom had been nearly empty except for Alex, myself, and a few reporters covering the case as an example of social media fraud and family identity theft. Our parents had chosen not to attend the sentencing, unable to face the reality that their enabling behavior had contributed to Jessica's criminal escalation. Tyler had testified earlier in the proceedings but maintained his distance from the final hearing, having rebuilt his life around legitimate business ventures after his brief cooperation with law enforcement. Detective Harris approaches us in the courthouse parking lot, carrying a manila folder containing the final paperwork that officially closes the criminal case against Jessica. The investigation that began with my frantic phone call to the bank has concluded with multiple felony convictions and a clear legal precedent for prosecuting family identity theft cases. She explains that the case will likely be studied in law enforcement training programs as an example of how seemingly minor financial crimes can reveal extensive patterns of fraud and manipulation. The restitution order includes provisions for ongoing monitoring. Detective Harris explains, reviewing the court's final judgment. If Jessica attempts to profit from her story through social media, book deals, or any other means, those earnings will be directed toward paying what she owes to the banks, dealership, and other victims. The court was very clear that she cannot benefit financially from her criminal behavior in any way. This provision addresses my concern that Jessica might attempt to monetize her notoriety or transform her criminal experience into content that could generate income. The financial recovery process has taken nearly 2 years to complete, requiring constant vigilance and documentation to ensure that every trace of Jessica's fraudulent activities was removed from my credit profile. The BMW was sold at auction for significantly less than its loan value, leaving a substantial balance that Jessica will be required to pay through wage garnishment and asset seizure for years to come. The experience taught me invaluable lessons about credit monitoring, identity protection, and the importance of regular financial audits that will serve me throughout my life. Miss Patricia Wells, my supervisor at Phoenix Design Solutions, had been remarkably supportive throughout the legal proceedings, allowing me flexible scheduling for court appearances and understanding when the stress of family betrayal affected my work performance. The experience actually strengthened my professional relationships as colleagues rallied around me with offers of assistance and expressions of outrage at Jessica's behavior. Several coworkers shared their own stories of family financial abuse, creating a support network that helped me understand that Jessica's behavior wasn't unique or something I had somehow caused. The identity theft experience ultimately accelerated my career growth as the skills I developed navigating complex legal and financial systems translated into valuable expertise for client projects involving data security and fraud prevention. Phoenix Design Solutions began incorporating identity protection and financial security elements into their marketing campaigns for financial services clients, with my first-hand experience providing authentic insights that enhanced our creative strategies. What Jessica intended as destruction became the foundation for professional advancement I couldn't have achieved otherwise. Alex and I used the traumatic experience as an opportunity to strengthen our relationship communication and establish financial transparency that many couples never achieve. We implemented systems for monitoring each other's credit reports, established protocols for major financial decisions, and created emergency procedures for responding to potential fraud or identity theft. The trust required to share such intimate financial information deepened our emotional connection and prepared us for the merged financial life we were planning as our relationship progressed toward marriage. The wedding planning process became an exercise in intentional relationship building rather than social performance, with every decision reflecting our shared values rather than external expectations or family pressure. We chose vendors based on personal recommendations from friends rather than social media influence, selected a venue that felt meaningful rather than photogenic, and created a guest list that included only people who had demonstrated genuine support for our relationship. The contrast with Jessica's elaborate but hollow social media celebrations couldn't have been more stark or satisfying. Robert and Linda Thompson officially welcomed me into their family with the kind of warmth and acceptance that I'd never experienced from my own parents. They understood that my decision to prosecute Jessica and maintain distance from my enabling parents wasn't vindictive but necessary for my emotional and financial protection. Their home became a safe space where I could process the trauma of family betrayal without pressure to forgive or reconcile before I was ready to establish healthy boundaries. The pregnancy that Jessica had planned to leverage for social media content progressed during her incarceration, creating additional complications for our family as temporary custody arrangements had to be established. Our parents, already financially devastated by Jessica's criminal behavior and their own enabling choices, struggled to provide adequate care for an infant while processing their grief over their daughter's imprisonment. The child who was meant to represent Jessica's successful transition to motherhood instead became another casualty of her criminal decisions and narcissistic priorities. Social services became involved when our parents' capacity to care for Jessica's baby became questionable due to their financial instability and emotional dysfunction. The elaborate nursery Jessica had created with fraudulent funds was dismantled and sold to help pay for basic childcare needs, symbolically representing the collapse of her carefully constructed facades. The baby's future remained uncertain as Jessica faced years of incarceration followed by supervised probation that would limit her ability to provide stable parenting. The media attention surrounding Jessica's case evolved from sensational coverage of her dramatic arrest to thoughtful analysis of social media culture and the pressure to maintain fraudulent lifestyles for online audiences. Journalists explored how platform algorithms and engagement metrics incentivize increasingly desperate behavior from content creators struggling to maintain relevance. Jessica's case became a cautionary example of how social media success can mask financial desperation and criminal behavior. Local law enforcement began using Jessica's case in community education programs about identity theft prevention and family financial abuse. The sophistication of her fraud techniques and the vulnerability created by family relationships helped educate residents about protecting their personal information even from relatives. Detective Harris frequently spoke at community centers and financial institutions about recognizing the warning signs of family identity theft and the importance of monitoring credit reports regardless of family trust levels. The influencer community in Phoenix underwent significant changes following Jessica's arrest and conviction, with many content creators reevaluating their own financial practices and transparency with audiences. Several local influencers began posting about the pressure to maintain expensive lifestyles for social media and the mental health impacts of constant performance for online validation. Jessica's downfall sparked conversations about authenticity, financial responsibility, and the hidden costs of social media fame that benefited the entire community. Tyler's cooperation with law enforcement had earned him reduced charges but destroyed his relationship with Jessica and eliminated his access to the luxury lifestyle her criminal behavior had provided. He enrolled in business courses at a local community college and began building legitimate income sources through personal training and fitness coaching rather than social media promotion. His experience with Jessica taught him valuable lessons about the difference between authentic success and fraudulent appearances that guided his future relationship choices. The therapeutic process of recovering from Jessica's betrayal involved not just addressing the immediate trauma of identity theft but examining lifelong patterns of family dysfunction that had made me vulnerable to exploitation. Working with a counselor who specialized in family trauma helped me understand that Jessica's criminal behavior represented an extreme escalation of manipulation tactics she'd been using since childhood. Learning to recognize and resist these patterns became crucial for protecting myself from future exploitation by family members or romantic partners.
Dr. Amanda Foster, the therapist Alex and I began seeing together, helped us process the impact of my family trauma on our relationship while developing communication strategies that would prevent similar issues in our future family. She explained that survivors of family financial abuse often struggle with trust issues and hypervigilance around money that can strain intimate relationships. The therapy sessions became a safe space for exploring these challenges while building stronger emotional intimacy and mutual understanding. The financial education I gained through recovering from Jessica's identity theft inspired me to pursue additional certifications in financial planning and fraud prevention that enhanced my value to Phoenix Design Solutions clients. My first-hand experience with the complex systems involved in identity theft recovery gave me unique insights into customer pain points that informed more effective marketing strategies for financial services companies. What Jessica intended as career sabotage instead became the foundation for professional specialization and advancement. Alex proposed during a quiet weekend camping trip in Sedona, choosing a moment of natural beauty and personal intimacy rather than creating social media content or seeking external validation. The ring he'd selected reflected our shared values and financial priorities rather than attempting to impress others with expensive displays of wealth. His proposal speech focused on our partnership's shared goals and commitment to building a life based on authentic connection rather than superficial appearances. The engagement announcement we shared with friends and family was deliberately simple and private, posted only on personal social media accounts rather than being designed for maximum viral reach. We focused on sharing our happiness with people who had supported our relationship rather than seeking validation from broader online audiences. The contrast with Jessica's elaborate social media campaigns couldn't have been more intentional or satisfying. Planning our wedding became an exercise in intentional spending and value alignment rather than competitive social performance. We chose vendors who shared our priorities around sustainability, community support, and authentic service rather than those with the most impressive Instagram portfolios. Every decision reflected our commitment to building a marriage based on shared values rather than external approval or social media-worthy moments. The guest list for our wedding included only people who had demonstrated consistent support for our relationship and shared our values around integrity and authenticity. Alex's family, my colleagues from Phoenix Design Solutions, and friends we'd made through genuine connection rather than social networking comprised a small but meaningful group of witnesses to our commitment. The absence of my parents and other enabling family members felt liberating rather than sad, representing freedom from toxic relationships that had never served my well-being. Jessica's baby was born 3 months before our wedding, creating additional family drama as our parents pressured me to postpone our celebration to focus on helping with childcare responsibilities. Their suggestion that I should delay my own happiness to clean up the consequences of Jessica's criminal behavior demonstrated that they still hadn't learned to hold her accountable for her choices. My refusal to alter our wedding plans for Jessica's convenience marked another important boundary in my journey toward emotional independence. The wedding ceremony itself became a celebration of chosen family and authentic relationship rather than obligation and social performance. Patricia and Robert Thompson walked me down the aisle in place of my own parents, symbolically representing the family that had chosen to love and support me rather than exploit and manipulate me. Their presence felt more meaningful than any biological relationship based on shared genetics rather than shared values. Alex's wedding vows reflected our journey through adversity and our commitment to building a life based on trust, transparency, and mutual support. He acknowledged the pain I'd experienced through family betrayal while promising to be a partner who would protect rather than exploit my vulnerability. His words brought tears to my eyes, not because they were performed for an audience but because they represented genuine commitment and understanding. My own vows focused on gratitude for finding love that was based on authentic connection rather than convenience or exploitation. I spoke about learning to recognize the difference between healthy and toxic relationships and my commitment to building a family culture based on respect, honesty, and genuine care for each other's well-being. The words came from deep conviction rather than social expectation or romantic idealization. The wedding reception celebrated our commitment with close friends and chosen family in an atmosphere of genuine joy rather than social media performance. We hired a photographer to capture meaningful moments rather than Instagram-worthy content, focusing on emotional authenticity rather than visual perfection. The absence of pressure to create viral content allowed us to be fully present for our own celebration and the people who had supported our relationship. 6 months after our wedding, Jessica was released from prison to a halfway house where she would complete the final portion of her sentence under strict supervision. The conditions of her parole prohibited her from accessing social media platforms or creating any content related to her criminal activities. She was required to maintain steady employment and submit to regular financial monitoring to ensure compliance with restitution payments and prevent future fraud. Jessica's attempts to re-establish contact with me through our parents were met with clear boundaries and consistent refusal to engage in relationship repair that wasn't accompanied by genuine accountability and changed behavior. Her letters from prison had focused on her own suffering and requests for financial assistance rather than acknowledging the harm she'd caused or demonstrating understanding of why her behavior was unacceptable. The pattern suggested that incarceration hadn't fundamentally changed her narcissistic worldview or sense of entitlement to others' resources. The birth of our first child 2 years after Jessica's release brought clarity about the family legacy I wanted to create and protect. Holding our daughter in the hospital room surrounded by Alex's parents and my chosen family of close friends, I felt profound gratitude for the journey that had led me away from toxic family dynamics toward authentic love and support. Our child would grow up understanding that family is defined by love, respect, and integrity rather than biological connection or social obligation. The nursery Alex and I created for our daughter reflected our values around sustainability, financial responsibility, and authentic beauty rather than social media worthiness or competitive displays of wealth. We chose items based on functionality and personal meaning rather than brand prestige or Instagram potential. The contrast with Jessica's elaborate but temporary nursery funded through criminal activity couldn't have been more meaningful or satisfying. Teaching our daughter about healthy boundaries, financial responsibility, and authentic relationships became a priority that shaped our parenting philosophy and daily interactions. We wanted her to understand that love is demonstrated through consistent care and respect rather than dramatic gestures or expensive gifts. The lessons I'd learned through surviving Jessica's betrayal became the foundation for raising a child who would recognize and resist manipulation while building relationships based on mutual respect and genuine connection. The financial security Alex and I built together provided the foundation for generous giving to organizations supporting identity theft victims and family abuse survivors. Our experience with Jessica's crimes motivated us to support others navigating similar betrayals while advocating for stronger legal protections and better resource access for victims of family financial abuse. Transforming our trauma into service to others felt like the ultimate victory over Jessica's attempts to destroy our future. 5 years after Jessica's conviction, Detective Harris contacted me to report that Jessica had violated her parole by attempting to create anonymous social media accounts to promote cryptocurrency investment schemes. The violations resulted in her return to prison to serve the remainder of her original sentence, demonstrating that incarceration hadn't changed her fundamental character or decision-making patterns. Her inability to learn from consequences confirmed that my decision to maintain distance had been
wise and necessary. The final chapter of this story isn't about Jessica's continued failures or our family's ongoing dysfunction, but about the beautiful life Alex and I built from the ashes of betrayal and trauma. Our marriage thrived because it was based on authentic connection rather than social performance. Our careers flourished because they reflected genuine values rather than desperate image management. And our family grew in an atmosphere of love and respect that contrasted sharply with the toxicity I'd experienced in childhood. Standing in our backyard watching our children play while Alex tends the garden we planted together, I feel profound gratitude for the journey that brought me to this moment of peace and contentment. Jessica's identity theft was meant to destroy my financial future and keep me trapped in family dysfunction, but instead it became the catalyst for building a life of authentic success and genuine happiness. The freedom that comes from choosing love over obligation, authenticity over performance, and integrity over convenience has proven more valuable than any luxury item or social media validation Jessica ever pursued. The woman who once felt invisible in her own family now lives surrounded by people who see, appreciate, and celebrate her authentic self. The financial security Jessica tried to steal has been rebuilt stronger than before, protected by knowledge and systems that prevent future exploitation. The family she sought to keep me trapped within has been replaced by chosen relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. Jessica's greatest attempt at destruction became the foundation for my greatest success, and that irony feels like the most satisfying justice of all. The morning light streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office at Phoenix Design Solutions, where I now serve as Senior Creative Director after 7 years of steady advancement built on genuine talent and authentic professional relationships. The view overlooks downtown Phoenix's skyline, a daily reminder of how far I've traveled from the desperate phone call I made to Chase Bank that first revealed Jessica's identity theft. My desk displays photos of Alex and our two children alongside awards recognizing my work in financial services, marketing, and fraud prevention education, achievements that grew directly from the expertise I gained surviving my sister's criminal behavior. The intercom buzzes with a call from Rebecca Martinez, a new client seeking consultation about rebuilding her brand after surviving family identity theft, remarkably similar to what I experienced with Jessica. These referrals have become increasingly common as my reputation for understanding both the business and personal aspects of financial recovery has spread throughout the Phoenix professional community. What began as unwanted expertise gained through victimization has evolved into a specialized practice that helps others navigate the complex intersection of family trauma and financial restoration. Rebecca enters my office carrying a folder thick with legal documents and bank statements, her expression mixing determination with the exhausted vulnerability I recognize from my own journey through identity theft recovery. Her younger brother had used her excellent credit to finance a luxury lifestyle that collapsed when his cryptocurrency investments failed, leaving her responsible for debts she never incurred, while her family pressured her to forgive his behavior, to preserve holiday gatherings and maintain appearances. The familiar pattern of family enabling and victim blaming brings back memories of my own parents' reactions to Jessica's crimes. Everyone keeps telling me that family forgiveness is more important than money, Rebecca explains, spreading her documentation across my conference table. But the debt he created is preventing me from qualifying for a mortgage, and my credit score has dropped over 200 points. I feel like I'm being punished for his choices while he faces no real consequences. Her words echo conversations I've had with dozens of family identity theft survivors over the years, each struggling with the unique combination of financial damage and emotional betrayal that distinguishes these crimes from stranger-perpetrated fraud. The consultation reveals patterns I've learned to recognize through professional experience and personal recovery. Rebecca's brother had been monitoring her financial progress for months before striking, timing his fraud to coincide with her job promotion and improved creditworthiness. He'd used childhood memories and family connections to bypass security questions and verify his identity as her to bank representatives. Most damaging, he'd manipulated family relationships to create pressure for Rebecca to accept responsibility for debts she never incurred rather than pursuing criminal charges that would hold him accountable. The business Rebecca hopes to launch focuses on sustainable fashion design, a passion project she's been developing for years while working in corporate marketing to build the financial foundation necessary for entrepreneurship. Her brother's identity theft has delayed these plans indefinitely while forcing her to dedicate time and resources to fraud recovery instead of business development. The theft wasn't just financial but represents stolen opportunities and delayed dreams that may never be fully recoverable. As Rebecca describes her family's reaction to the identity theft discovery, I hear echoes of my own experience with parents who prioritized family image over justice and accountability. Her mother suggested that pressing charges would destroy her brother's future, while her father proposed family mediation rather than legal proceedings to resolve the financial damage. Neither parent offered to help Rebecca recover financially or acknowledged that their son's behavior constituted serious criminal activity that warranted meaningful consequences. The marketing strategy we developed for Rebecca's eventual business launch incorporates transparency about her identity theft experience as a foundation for building authentic customer relationships based on shared values around integrity and accountability. Rather than hiding her family trauma, we position her survival and recovery as evidence of the resilience and authenticity that will characterize her business practices. The approach transforms her victimization into a competitive advantage that differentiates her brand in an increasingly crowded marketplace. Working with Rebecca reminds me of the Wednesday morning 3 years ago when I received an unexpected call from Detective Harris, informing me that Jessica had been arrested again for violating her parole conditions through attempted wire fraud targeting elderly victims through social media platforms. The crimes demonstrated that her time in prison hadn't changed her fundamental character or decision-making patterns, confirming that my choice to maintain permanent distance from her had been wise and necessary for my continued safety and well-being. The second arrest had triggered automatic revocation of Jessica's parole and return to prison to serve the remainder of her original sentence plus additional time for the new charges. Our parents had contacted me through Alex's office, hoping to avoid my direct rejection of their requests for financial assistance with Jessica's legal defense. Their assumption that I might fund legal representation for someone who had committed crimes against me demonstrated their continued inability to understand appropriate boundaries or acknowledge the severity of Jessica's behavior. Jessica's second incarceration coincided with our decision to purchase our first home together, a milestone that felt particularly meaningful given that her identity theft had originally threatened my ability to qualify for a mortgage. The house Alex and I selected required extensive renovation, providing opportunities to create spaces that reflected our values and priorities rather than attempting to impress others or generate social media content. Every improvement represented genuine investment in our future rather than superficial displays designed for external validation. The home buying process had required extensive documentation to prove that Jessica's fraudulent debts had been properly removed from my credit history and that my financial profile accurately reflected my actual income and borrowing capacity. Mortgage underwriters scrutinized every aspect of the identity theft case and recovery process, ultimately approving our loan with favorable terms that recognized my improved financial position and demonstrated responsibility. The approval felt like final vindication that Jessica's attempts to destroy my financial future had not only failed but had ultimately strengthened my economic foundation. Our children Emma and Michael are now old enough to understand age-appropriate explanations about why we maintain limited contact with my biological family while embracing close relationships with Alex's parents and our chosen family of friends and colleagues. We've taught them that family relationships must be based on mutual respect and care rather than biological obligation alone, and that healthy boundaries protect rather than damage important relationships. Their questions about family dynamics provide opportunities to reinforce values around integrity, accountability, and authentic connection. Emma, now 8 years old, demonstrates strong financial awareness and personal boundary setting skills that reflect the intentional parenting choices Alex and I made based on our own experiences with family dysfunction and financial abuse. She understands the importance of protecting personal information, recognizes manipulation tactics that might be used against her, and feels confident asserting her needs and preferences even when others disagree. These skills will serve her throughout her life regardless of the specific challenges she encounters. Michael, at 6 years old, shows natural empathy and generosity while understanding that helping others should never come at the expense of his own safety or well-being. His balanced approach to relationships reflects the stable emotional foundation Alex and I have worked to provide, contrasting sharply with the chaotic attention-seeking and resource competition that characterized my own childhood experience with Jessica. Both children understand that love is demonstrated through consistent care and respect rather than dramatic gestures or expensive gifts. The family traditions we've established prioritize authentic connection over social performance, with birthday celebrations, holiday gatherings, and milestone achievements focused on meaningful relationships rather than photo opportunities or gift competitions. Our home serves as a gathering place for friends and chosen family members who share our values around integrity and mutual support. The contrast with Jessica's elaborate but hollow social media celebrations continues to feel satisfying and meaningful years after her crimes. Phoenix Design Solutions has expanded significantly since I joined the company, with my specialized expertise in financial services marketing contributing to major client acquisitions and award-winning campaigns that position the firm as a leader in fraud prevention and financial education. The reputation I've built for understanding both the business and personal aspects of financial recovery has attracted clients ranging from major banks to community credit unions seeking authentic messaging that resonates with consumers who have experienced financial trauma. The speaking engagements I now accept at financial industry conferences and law enforcement training events focus on the unique challenges of family identity theft and the importance of balancing criminal justice with victim support and family preservation where possible. These presentations have led to consulting opportunities with financial institutions seeking to improve their fraud detection and victim support processes. The expertise Jessica never intended to provide has become a cornerstone of my professional reputation and career advancement. Alex's nonprofit organization has grown substantially over the past decade, now operating technology centers in 12 underserved communities across Arizona while providing digital literacy training and internet access to thousands of families. His success demonstrates the power of authentic mission-driven work compared to the superficial influence-seeking that characterized Jessica's online activities. Our partnership in both personal and professional contexts reflects shared values that have only strengthened through the challenges we've navigated together.
The financial security we've built together enables generous support for organizations serving identity theft victims and family abuse survivors, transforming our negative experience with Jessica into positive impact for others facing similar challenges. Our annual giving includes scholarship funds for students pursuing careers in financial services and law enforcement, fields that need professionals who understand the personal impact of financial crimes. The ability to convert trauma into service feels like the ultimate victory over Jessica's attempts to limit our future possibilities. Robert and Linda Thompson have embraced their grandparent roles with the same warmth and consistency they showed when welcoming me into their family during the darkest period of my life. Their stable presence in our children's lives provides additional security and demonstrates healthy family relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. Emma and Michael understand that they can always turn to their grandparents for support, wisdom, and unconditional love regardless of life circumstances. The business mentorship program I've established at Phoenix Design Solutions pairs experienced professionals with emerging talent from underserved communities, providing career guidance and skill development opportunities that were unavailable to me during my own early professional development. The program reflects my commitment to creating opportunities for others while building authentic professional relationships based on mutual growth rather than exploitation. Several program graduates now work as full-time employees at our firm or have launched successful businesses with our continued support. Community speaking engagements at high schools and community colleges focus on financial literacy, personal boundary setting, and recognizing manipulation tactics that might be used by family members or romantic partners seeking to exploit others for financial gain. These presentations combine practical education with personal storytelling that helps students understand the real-world applications of healthy relationship skills. The positive feedback from educators and students confirms that sharing my experience serves valuable educational purposes beyond my own healing. The annual family vacation Alex and I take with our children deliberately avoids social media documentation or luxury displays, instead focusing on shared experiences and memory creation that strengthens our family bonds without external validation. These trips provide opportunities for meaningful conversations, outdoor adventures, and quality time away from work responsibilities and community obligations. The vacations contrast sharply with Jessica's elaborate travel content that prioritized visual impact over authentic experience or relationship building. Professional recognition for my work in financial services marketing has included industry awards and invitations to serve on advisory boards for organizations focused on fraud prevention and victim support. These opportunities allow me to influence policy and practice development while ensuring that victim perspectives are included in program design and implementation. The platform I've gained through professional excellence enables advocacy for improvements in how financial institutions and law enforcement agencies respond to family identity theft cases. The therapeutic work Alex and I continue with Dr. Foster has evolved from crisis intervention following Jessica's crimes to ongoing relationship maintenance and parenting guidance that helps us navigate challenges while maintaining the healthy communication patterns we've established. Regular therapy sessions provide opportunities to process new stressors, celebrate achievements, and ensure that we're continuing to grow both individually and as a couple. The investment in mental health support reflects our commitment to building a strong foundation for our family's future. Jessica's third arrest, which occurred 18 months ago for attempting to defraud COVID-19 relief programs using falsified business information, resulted in federal charges that carry significantly harsher penalties than her previous state-level convictions. The pattern of escalating criminal behavior confirms that her time in prison served as education in more sophisticated fraud techniques rather than genuine rehabilitation or character change. Our parents' continued attempts to solicit family financial support for her legal defense have been met with firm boundaries and referrals to public defender services. The renovation projects Alex and I have completed on our home reflect our shared aesthetic preferences and practical needs rather than attempting to create spaces designed for social media content or competitive displays of wealth. Each improvement serves genuine functional purposes while creating environments that support our family's daily activities and long-term goals. The satisfaction of building something authentic and lasting contrasts sharply with Jessica's temporary displays funded through criminal activity. Emma's interest in graphic design and marketing reflects exposure to my work while developing her own creative talents and business understanding. Her school projects often incorporate lessons about ethical business practices, authentic marketing, and the importance of building trust with customers through consistent quality and honest communication. These early learning experiences provide foundations for whatever career path she eventually chooses while ensuring she understands the value of integrity in professional relationships. Michael's fascination with technology and programming aligns with Alex's expertise while developing interests that could contribute to digital equity and accessibility initiatives in the future. His natural curiosity about how systems work and interest in helping others suggests potential career directions in technology development or community education. Both children understand that meaningful work involves service to others rather than purely personal advancement or financial gain. The financial planning Alex and I have implemented includes comprehensive identity protection measures, regular credit monitoring, and emergency response protocols that would activate if either of us experience fraud or identity theft. These systems reflect lessons learned from Jessica's crimes while providing security that allows us to focus on opportunities rather than constantly defending against threats. The planning process has strengthened our partnership while ensuring that we're prepared for various future scenarios. Estate planning documents we've established ensure that our children would be raised by Alex's parents or other chosen family members rather than biological relatives who might not share our values or provide appropriate care. These arrangements reflect our commitment to protecting our children from potential exploitation while ensuring they would continue receiving the love and support they need regardless of circumstances. The planning process required difficult conversations about family dysfunction while providing peace of mind about our children's future security. The scholarship fund Alex and I established at Arizona State University supports students from underserved communities pursuing degrees in graphic design, marketing, or related fields while maintaining strong academic performance and demonstrating commitment to ethical business practices. Recipients receive not only financial support but also mentorship opportunities and internship placements that provide practical experience in professional environments. The program reflects our commitment to creating opportunities for others while investing in future generations of ethical business leaders. Professional writing I've begun includes articles for industry publications about the intersection of family trauma and financial recovery, helping other professionals understand the unique challenges faced by victims of family identity theft. These publications extend my influence beyond direct client relationships while contributing to broader conversations about improving support systems for financial crime victims. The writing process has provided additional opportunities for reflection and healing while serving educational purposes for other professionals. The consulting practice I've developed alongside my role at Phoenix Design Solutions focuses specifically on helping businesses develop marketing strategies that acknowledge and address customer trauma while building authentic relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Clients include financial institutions, healthcare organizations, and other service providers seeking to reach audiences who may have experienced betrayal or exploitation in similar contexts. The approach combines marketing expertise with trauma-informed practices that honor customer experiences while promoting genuine healing and empowerment. Looking toward the future, Alex and I envision continued growth in our professional contributions while maintaining the strong family foundation we've built through intentional choices and consistent commitment to shared values. Our children will inherit not material wealth but understanding of how to build authentic relationships, maintain personal integrity, and contribute positively to their communities. The legacy we're creating stands in stark contrast to the dysfunction and exploitation that characterized my family of origin while demonstrating the transformative power of choosing love over obligation and authenticity over performance. The woman who once felt invisible in her own family now leads professional teams, speaks at industry conferences, and mentors emerging talent while raising children who understand their worth and potential. The financial security Jessica attempted to destroy has been rebuilt stronger than ever while serving as a foundation for generous giving and community investment. The family relationships she sought to trap me within have been replaced by chosen connections based on mutual respect and genuine care. Every day of authentic success represents victory over her attempts at destruction, and that triumph continues to feel profoundly satisfying after all these years. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.